Am I live now? Okay, for anybody that's watching online, we have a slight delay here. The code enforcement officer is talking with the owner on our first case, so we're going to have a delay here, and we'll get back going whenever they have finished. We'll go back live. password.
Testing 1, 2. Test, test. Test 1, 2. Testing. You need me to continue talking, Janine? Nothing? All right, all good?
Whenever you're ready, Scott.
Ready?
We ready?
Ready.
Okay, so we'll convene the hearing. This is a hearing of the City of Newberry, Florida, Special Magistrate for Code Enforcement. The time is 1:15, Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. And the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, so if everybody would stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the point I would normally outline what the process is for hearing the cases that would come today, but I understand that that the code enforcement officer and the city attorney has met with the owner and the responsible parties, and so maybe we're going to proceed in a little bit different case. So this is case number 2022-001, violation number 2022-10-008. This is the City of Newberry as petitioner versus Bajrang Bali LLC as one of the respondents, and Southern Roots Land Development LLC as the second respondent. And at this point, I'm going to hear from the city attorney, Mr. Walker.
Magistrate Fugate, we've met with the landowners and also their land clearing company, and I think we have an outline for an agreement which gets us to step 1, and then we will have step number 2, which is the actual mitigation plan. So in the next several weeks, hopefully by the first part of the year, just so we have a definitive date, we're going to mark January 15th as our date that we will have our information so that we can start working on
That
it.
date,
January 15th, 2023.
Okay.
The plan is, Mr. Magistrate, that, well, first of all, let me introduce the landowners, and forgive my Western tongue if I don't say it correctly, but Nirav Patel, and if you want to raise your hand or stand up so that our magistrate judge can be introduced to you as well. Ragesh Shah.
Yes, sir.
And if I say it incorrectly, you tell me.
Ragesh.
And Sharia Mehta?
Sharia.
Sharia Mehta, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Sorry. And then behind the gentleman is, now they're the owners of the corporation that owns the land, 8.3 acres.
These three gentlemen
These three gentlemen.
are the owners of the LLC.
That's correct. That's my understanding. All correct. Then behind them is Jacqueline Cruz. She and her husband are the owners of Southern Roots Land Development Company. Daryl Cruz is seated. There's 8.3 acres of property on Newberry Road. They anticipate that, I believe is commercial intensive is what the zoning is, so they intend to develop the property and They did not realize, Magistrate Fugate, that there is a tree, we're a protected tree environment here in the city of Newberry. So some of the trees that were knocked down on this property are a protected species. We have Neil from the county who has been out on the property, and through an interlocal agreement with the county, Neil is an arborist. He inspected the property along with our codes enforcement official, Wayne Clark, and the problem and where we're at right now is that the trees have been knocked down and put into windrows, and we don't really know what's a protected species and what is not, because the trees have been bunched up. Southern Roots would like to move forward as quickly as possible because it's an eyesore. The city would like them to move forward as quickly as possible as well. A lot of the scrub that would have been removed anyway, they want to get burned and disposed of on the property, so that meets everybody's objective. But in the next period of time, next couple of weeks, on or before January 15th, Neil and Wayne will go out to the property. They'll meet the landowners if they want to be present, and the Southern Roots. The crews will be there. They're going to have one of their skid steers on the property. They're going to separate out the piles so that Neil can confirm what's a protected species, what's not. So that's step number one. Step number two is that once we know that, we'll know what the replacement trees are going to be, and there will be an anticipated agreement. We don't know what that is just yet because we don't know what's a protected tree and what's not until we get out there and do that inventory. Once we get that done, there will be plantings. They will mitigate based upon protected trees status, and either on-site or off-site, there will be required plantings of live oaks that were taken down. So many live oaks per so many removed trees, and we'll know what that is. I've advised the landowners that there would also be some cost assessment. Your time for coming here today and also adopting this in the form of an order at some stage will be borne by the landowners and Southern Roots. That will let them work out however that works between them. In addition to that, there may be some additional financial assessment that we have on top of that associated with a fund that we manage for the city that is essentially a tree fund, and we utilize that for replanting of trees as well. So that's the broad strokes of what the anticipated agreement is. I've spoken to them. It was a mistake. It wasn't certainly it was an unintentional thing. They're very cooperative. They want to move on and get this resolved as quickly as possible. I think they're a little chagrined that this has happened, and so it's all,
Okay,
I think,
so,
something we can work out pretty readily.
so it doesn't sound like that y'all want to present, that the city wants to present any evidence today regarding the violations. Doesn't sound like you have the details that you need to be able to find the violations.
Correct. That is correct.
So are you asking, doesn't sound like you're really asking me to do anything today other than be ready possibly for a follow-up hearing at a later time to possibly.
That's exactly what
But you're not looking for any findings today of any violation. It sounds like they are going to probably admit to those violations and whatever y'all would do.
That's right. I think what we're doing today is a continuance of today to a date certain in the future, and we will have something on your desk. My anticipation is early January, we'll have something on your desk that'll be a stipulated order, and then this matter will be resolved.
So as to the respondents, do y'all understand from my standpoint what's happening today? I'm really not even opening this hearing to take any evidence or make any findings regarding this matter. I'm being asked by the city, who really drives this up, until the hearing actually by the city, to continue this to allow them time for both parties to enter into some kind of an agreement. most likely resolve me even having to hear. Everybody's okay with that? Is anybody not okay with that? Let the record show that all respondents are in agreement with the plan. I do have a question. What is the role, and I've looked a little bit, I've looked at the ordinance and tried to get a handle on Newberry's tree ordinance. What is the role of the tree board? Well, let me ask first, do I understand that that Newberry's ordinance anticipates a tree board part of its mechanism of enforcing that?
That may be a better question for Brian, but my anticipation is that the tree board would develop, if this was proceeding in accordance with a normal plan, they would sign off on the mitigation plan or site plan.
Commissioner, Special Magistrate Fugate, my name is Brian Thomas, and the Director of Planning and Economic Development for the record. At this time, we don't actually have a tree board seated and haven't for a while. But typically that is the case, that they would put together they would have a site plan. The site plan would identify the protected trees, then do based on that inventory, there would be a mitigation plan developed, and that would go before the tree board. In this case, most likely, with the absence of a tree board, to go before the planning and zoning.
I mean, I only ask that question because I see that language in there, which I don't think the tree board would necessarily be a part of what would be an issue with a code violation. If I was actually having a hearing and hearing that, I don't know that that would be a part of the violation because they never applied for a permit to even get to the tree board. With one exception, okay? Find another provision in the code, and you'll need to look at this and decide how this may impact if it comes back to the special magistrate. Provision in the code that says that the code enforcement officer, reading this right, the code enforcement officer was to consult with the tree board prior to bringing the code violation for a hearing. Make sure that that is considered. Now, if y'all come to an agreement that is administrative and doesn't involve a code violation, then I don't think I care about it. Yes, it's possible y'all might come to an agreement that doesn't involve a code enforcement order to make it happen. I did have that question if we had went with a hearing today as to what the interplay had been with the board, because there seems to be that requirement. Anybody else? Okay, does anybody else have anything relating to this case? Okay, then I think what I'm doing today is I am continuing this case to be heard at a later date if necessary, and it will be up to the enforcement department to let us know when all that's going to happen and properly notice.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, with that, if there's any other business to come before the magistrate today? And this hearing is adjourned.